My name's Matt Seguda, and I had the opportunity to create a video here for a class I'm taking, which is my final class in completing a master's degree in engineering through the University of New Mexico. The class is the history of construction, and the assignment was to pick out a building or a feature of buildings and kind of research the function and the history of that particular building. I took the opportunity to answer a question that I'm asked quite often in my daily work, which is, why do we have flat roofs? So I really kind of wanted to research the idea of flat roofs and research where they stem from, the design, and how they've continued to be such a dominant feature in our architecture here in Santa Fe in northern New Mexico. I think our search kind of starts in 350, 400 current era with some of the excavations that have taken place and researching some of the pit houses that exist. And I have to say that these aren't perfect examples because it's impossible to know exactly what was being built at the time. This is just based on what we can find that hasn't been destroyed by the elements or other forces. During this time period, what we see is a lot of flat roofs, pit houses that are literally just constructed of timbers, 8 to 10 inches in diameter, with smaller timbers on top, which we now call latillas, and then a layer of brush and other small particles, and then dirt. And the dirt served as the insulation and the weather-resistant barrier. The dirt itself would be formed to shed water off of the structure and provide a layer of protection against the elements for whoever was using that building at the time. If we fast forward a few hundred years and even into 12, 13, 1400, as we were seeing more pueblos being built in the New Mexico region, that style of construction still existed, only it went from being in the pit house or a hole in the ground to an erected pueblo or structure. And again, we utilized the vigas with latillas, decking, some sort of boards with a layer of dirt on top. This style of construction continued until we started to see an influx of individuals moving into the region with new ideas. Of course, they'd seen what had worked in Europe and other parts of the world, and they wanted to kind of change things up a bit and make it a little bit more efficient. A good example of this would be Archbishop Lamy, who came to Santa Fe and didn't feel like our mud houses and mud churches were sufficient for praising God, and we're not near the level of beauty of what he had seen in France. And so he actually brought in architects to come in and create a church. Of course, it was funded by the Catholic Church, and that church is the cathedral here in Santa Fe. While completing the cathedral, the Loretto Chapel was also constructed in part by the same architects. And if you take a look at those buildings, you can see that they're vastly different than the mud missions that had been built previously. So around this time, you see the architecture of this region changing as a result of new materials, new ideas. And I wouldn't go so far as say better, but I would say that we definitely we're changing and going in a different direction. So the dry, arid climate is what allowed these roofing systems to actually perform. Sure, we would get some big rains, but the system itself would dry out quickly and it wouldn't trap any moisture. And as soon as it was dried out, it would continue to function for the next storm. Ironic enough, this same dry climate is what attracted lungers in the late 1800s and early 1900s to come to Santa Fe. Santa Fe's climate provided a place where they could fight tuberculosis. One of the individuals who came into Santa Fe was none other than Carlos Vieira. And Carlos Vieira's passion for the Pueblo style of Santa Fe really helped maintain and contribute to the desire to keep the flat Pueblo look as part of our architecture here in Santa Fe. Shortly after his arrival, an architect, John Gamim, also moved into the region who shared his same passion. So they really pushed, and with the support of several others, to revive the Pueblo look and then eventually even the territorial look of this region. Carlos Vieira felt like the natural materials of this region should be used to build our homes, and that the Pueblo style should not go away just because we have new materials coming in. And Gamim felt the same way. They felt like, well, yeah, we can introduce new materials, but the look we need to maintain. The look we cannot lose. This look is Santa Fe. We don't want to lose it. We want to keep Santa Fe looking like Santa Fe. At the time when everybody else was changing, every other city was changing, Santa Fe wasn't, and they wanted to keep it looking like Santa Fe. And it definitely was a project in itself, and that's what Vieira and Meme did, along with a lot of other people. From the early 1900s all the way up until the 1980s, you saw the Pueblo look continue to thrive. People moving into Santa Fe really felt like it was a trademark of the area, a beautiful throwback, if you will, of an ancient city. And I think that that's part of our culture here, and it's part of our architecture that people really admire. Today, I think it's ironic that this same architecture, this same style of building over, from the 400 current era, we still see it trying to be mimicked. We still try to create that same look with vigas and canales. I think the difference is that now, instead of building a 300 square foot room, we're building 10,000 square foot homes. We're building large commercial spaces, but we're still trying to keep the look and the appearance of the Santa Fe style intact. It is a challenge from a roofing standpoint. I think as we introduce ductwork, mechanical systems, skylights, complex elements that are on top of the roof that we now have to try to waterproof around, is definitely more challenging than just a small 300 square foot pit with a small area to slope. But I also think that the idea of the flat roof, the look of the flat roof, is here to stay. I think we're going to continue to see people wanting to restore homes and continue to purchase homes in this region, and definitely maintain the look and keep Santa Fe looking like Santa Fe. I think it's a unique opportunity that we have to keep the region looking as it did 300 years ago. I think one thing that's clear to me is that there's always going to be demand for the flat, low slope roof in this region. I think that our challenge is maintaining or meeting the expectations of the customer, and that also means ensuring that we can meet manufacturer specifications. We can create a slope that is adequate to provide a good weather-resistant barrier, and then also meeting the needs of the client, the homeowner, the building owner, and the contractor. As we talked about earlier, what people are expecting of a low-slope roof is the look and the appearance that we've talked about throughout this presentation, but also providing the comfort, the insulation value, and other amenities that we did not offer 100 years ago. So we look forward to the challenge. I know architects are up for it. We're up for it, and it'll be really interesting to see where we're at in another 100 years.